This video is about how to adjust your Z offset after you install a Z probe. I'm using it with the BL Touch, but I'm sure that it works with any other Z probe, whether it's inductive or whatever it may be. It doesn't really matter. But this is how I do it. I got Pronter Face from my computer, and this just gives me an easy terminal to enter commands. So if you haven't used Pronter Face, essentially you plug in your printer box, and then you hit connect up here. Here it says disconnect because it's already connected, and then it'll bring up all this dialog box that's right there. If you notice, that M851 command shows you what your current offset is on your Z. So what I do is I always home first before I do anything else, and so that will obviously home your printer. And then I come in and I type M851 Z0, and that'll reset the Z offset. And so right there it says let me let that focus, M851 Z0. So then I'll save it with M500, M501, and then I'll load it into parameters with an M503. Let me let that focus there. So now that it's loaded, you can see that the M851 shows that the Z offset is at 0. So what I do now is I type G28. Now I'm sorry, I know that it's not constantly focusing there, so I'm going to do my best to keep it focused. So I'm going to type G28 Z0. And so that'll have it home the Z. Then I type G1 F60 Z0. And so that is very slowly bringing down the Z. And what I'll do after that is I've got to turn off the soft stops, which make the Z stop at 0. So I'm going to type M211 S0. So that removes the soft end stops. And what I do at this point is, so that is obviously not set where it needs to be. There's a gap there. At that point, I'll go to my control box, and I've got to move the axis, and I'll move the Z. So I know that I'm not going to need to move it down 10 millimeters. This one may not even be a millimeter, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sheet of paper, and I'm going to slide it in there. And you can use a sheet of paper, feeler gauge, whatever you want. So there's obviously some room there. It's not even hardly touching. So I'll move it down 1 millimeter. And that might have been too much. That's too tight. So I'm going to back off on that millimeter and put it back at 0. And then I'm going to move it at 0.1. So that feels pretty good. Actually, that was a little too loose. Let me try that. Maybe one more. Okay, so that's about where I want it. And if you'll see on my little paper here, I keep all my cheat sheets in case I have to do it again. So now I'm at -4. I've got to remember that number. I'll write it down a lot of times. And then I'll go back to the home screen, and I'll see that I'm at -0.4. So then what I'll do is I'll type M851 -0.4. So that set the Z offset to -0.4. Actually, I take that back. I typed that in incorrectly. M851 Z -0.4. So that verifies right there that my Z is at -0.4. See, previously whenever I didn't put in the Z, and it just read back the M851 -0.4, it didn't tell me that was the Z offset. Here it does whenever I did it correctly. So then I'll save with M500, M501, and then M503. And there's the Z offset. It's set correctly, it's saved, and it's loaded into parameters. So at that point, I am ready to go.